Okay, welcome to the video for 4A and 4B. So you're going to want to write down your objectives and make sure that you write 4A, 4B so that way when you look at your notes you know what they're for. So our first objective, I can write the equation in point-slope form when given a point and a slope. So this is going to be a new form that we haven't seen before. And I can write an equation in slope-intercept form when given a point and a slope. So slope-intercept form is what we've been working with already. This is just the y equals mx plus b, where the m is the slope, so right in front of the x, and the b is our y-intercept, so where it crosses the graph, right? So y-intercept is just, if we have a line, this is our y-intercept right there. Okay, point-slope form is the new one. It's y minus y equals m times x minus x. And a lot of times we'll call this y sub 1, get this in here, and x sub 1. And these are important. They're colored like this because I want you to know that this is where we're going to put our point. But the m is the same as it was before. So m is always slope, so the slope goes right there. And then the x and the y, well, the y would be whatever this number is here, and the x would be whatever number this is here. So the sub 1, sub 1. That would be a point on your line. That's a point on a line. I'm going to move this up just a little bit. And this form is the easiest form to make an equation when you have a point and a slope. That's why it's called point-slope form. You can just plug it in. So let me show you how to do that. For this first example, use the given information, write the equation of a line in point-slope form. So here we go. We have a point right here, and we're given the slope right here. So therefore, we can plug it right into this equation. What you should do is just create the skeleton of the equation. So y minus, and then leave a spot for y sub 1, equals, your slope's going to go here, so leave a spot, x minus, and leave a spot. Okay, this is going to help you when you're dealing with negatives in a moment. Notice I didn't give you any negatives on your point here, but we'll see that here. Okay, so now we're going to fill in the blanks here. So we have blank here. That's where the slope goes, m. So here's our slope and the information they've given us, so -3. And then here we need y sub 1. So we're just looking for the y of the point that they gave us. So here's the y of our point. So this is 5. And then lastly, we're looking for x sub 1. And here's the x of the point that they give us, so 2. That's all there is to it. You just take what you're given and you put it in there. So you can go ahead and pause the video and try this one if you like, or you can just follow along. So I'm going to draw the skeleton of my equation again. Okay, so now my slope goes in right here, 1/4. Whoops, I was about to write 1/2. 1/4. The y is a -1. So this is where it gets tricky. You have to make sure that if this is a -1, when you put it in, it becomes a +1, because y minus a -1 is going to be +1. Okay, so notice that over here we had a +5. It became a negative in the equation. Here we have a -1. It becomes a positive when you put in the equation because you're subtracting this y sub 1 and this x sub 1. All right, and then last one in here, we're going to put our 8 in right here. And I need to close up those parentheses. All right, that's all there is to it. I should have maybe moved that a little bit closer, but that's our equation in point-slope form. All right, so we're given some different information here. Use the given information to write the equation of the line in point-slope form that goes through 2 points. Well, we're given the 2 points, but we're not given the slope. So think about how we can find the slope with these 2 points. And hopefully you remember that we have the slope formula, which is y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. So we'll just use that to find out what the slope is. Okay, so I put my y's together, 5 minus 2. And then I put my x together, 4 minus 3. So 5 minus 2 gives me 3. 4 minus 3 gives me 1. And this is all going to simplify to 3. Okay, so what we needed was a point and a slope for this equation. Now we have a point and a slope. So let's again write the skeleton of our equation here. And our slope, which we found, is 3. And then our point. Well, a common mistake here is that you guys tend to want to put both points in there. You just need to choose one. It doesn't matter which one. Okay, so if I am given 2 points here, just pick one. So let's say I've picked the one on the right here. And now I need to take the y, which is 5, and put it in. And the x, which is 4, and put it in. And I've now created my equation. Okay, now we're going to graph some equations. And one of these is familiar. We've graphed like this before, but let's graph like this. And note to graph an equation, you either need 2 points. Right, if we just have 2 points, and that makes it easy to draw a line because you just point, point, draw a line through it. But a lot of times with these equations, we're not given 2 points, so a point and a slope will work. Right, so we need 1 point, so let's write a 1 here, 1 point, and a slope to find the other point. Okay, so where's our 1 point in here? Well, if we look at our equation, before we were putting in the point, now we need to pull out the point. So these positive numbers, when I put it in the equation, became negative. So that's the only thing you have to be careful of when you're pulling out your point here, is that whatever the sign is on the x and the y inside the equation, you need to use the opposite sign when you pull it out. So my point then for this, here's my x, it's going to be negative 4. And then here's my y. Well, it's negative right now, so that means it's going to be a positive 3. And then for my slope, well, it's right here, 1/2. Okay, so on here, our point is just the y-intercept. So we know it's right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 would be our point. And that point, just to take a little bit further, is actually 0, 5. So before you didn't need to know what that actual point was, you just found it, but it is 0, 5 right there. And then our slope is 1/2. All right, so let's graph these two. So we're starting at this point, negative 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, positive 1, 2, 3. There's our point, and now we just need to count up by this slope. So 1, 2, 1, 2, up 1 over 2, down 1, back 2. And there's the equation of this line, right? A point, and then we count from that slope. Here, our point we already plotted. It was our y-intercept is right there. And now we're going to count the slope on this one. So up 1 over 2. That's as far as I can go up. So I'm going to go down 1, back 2. Down 1, back 2. Down 1, back 2. And just follow the pattern. Well, it looks like these lines are exactly the same graph. Why are they the same graph? So let's look at this. Why do these two equations that look like they're different have the same graph? Well, let's go ahead and rearrange this equation so that it looks like that equation. Okay, we've done this before where we're rearranging equations, but we just want to get the y by itself. So the first thing I'm going to need to do here is distribute. So y minus 3 equals, I have 1/2 times x, and then 1/2 times 4. So 1/2 of 4 is 2. And then I'm going to have to move this to the other side. So I'm going to add it here so that way they cancel out to 0. And I'm going to add it here. Notice I'm not adding it to the x term because I can't combine those. Those are not like terms. So 1/2 x plus 5. Well, you can see that they're actually the same equation. They look different. They're in a different arrangement, but they're exact same equation. Just so they give us the same graph. All right, so let's practice that. Using the given information, write the equation of a line in slope-intercept form. Or what are we given here? We're given a point, and we're given a slope, but we need to get to slope-intercept form. So we're going to do this, and then we're going to write a few steps to the side here. So first thing you want to do here then is to go ahead and put this in point-slope form first. So y minus equals the slope, and then x minus. So our y goes with y, it's right there. Our x goes with x right there. And there is our slope. So step number 1, put the equation in point slope form. Okay, step number 2 is we're going to simplify. So we're going to simplify both sides, really, but the left side, there's nothing I can simplify here, so I'm going to simplify the right side. And what that means, if I'm simplifying, I'm following order of operations, of course. And so PEMDAS says, do the parentheses first. Well, there's nothing inside there. Do the exponent. There's no exponent, so that means we need to multiply first. Okay, so every time, once you do a bunch of these, you'll see that it's the same steps every time. But we're just going to multiply, which makes this 3x minus 6 on this side. So we're multiplying by the slope. Okay, this we're just going to bring down. It's y minus 6. And then lastly, we need to get the y by itself. And another word for that is to isolate y. So we're going to isolate y by getting rid of whatever number is next to it. So if I have a negative 6, I need to add 6 so that these cancel out, and this is y. I need to do the same to the other side to keep this equation balanced. So I'm going to add 6, and now on this one we end up with 0. So this is just y equals 3x. All this means is the y-intercept is at 0. I've actually graphed that line for you here. So we came up with y equals 3x. Well, you can see that y equals 3x just has an y-intercept at 0. And then here's the point 2, 6. Right? So we wanted a line that goes through 2, 6 and has a slope of 3. So it does go through 2, 6. We can see that right there. And then let's zoom in and I can show you that there's a slope of 3. There we go. We go up 3 and over 1. So that is the correct equation that we found here. Okay, that's not always going to happen. We're not always going to end up canceling out the y-intercept, but in this case we did. All right, so there's a couple for you to try. And they're just like the objective. You're going to use a point and a slope to come up with the point slope form, and then you're going to use a point and a slope to come up with slope intercept form, right? So coming up with the slope intercept form is what we did on this side. Okay, so this is objective 4B here, and that's what you're trying to accomplish here. So there should be no reason why you can't do this or try this, because you have steps and you just need to go back and take a look at them, or even rewatch this and see the steps that I used and do that for yourself. And then what I'm asking you to do for that first problem here is just what we did in 4A, simply plugging in the parts. So that was objective 4A, and now you're trying objective 4A right here. All right, thanks for watching, and I will see you in class.